not the director for the first movie. That was Simon Wells. The movie's budget wasn't enough to hire back the same voice actors, Kevin Bacon and Bridget Fonda, to play the lead roles of Balto and Jenna. Instead, they got freaking Maurice LaMarche, a stand-up comedian and voice actor primarily for comedic roles. His most notable role is Brain from Pinky and the Brain. And yes, he did win an award for that role, but that does not have a bearing on how good he fits in for Balto. Balto's voice should not be reminding me of Pinky and the Brain. Plus, this movie isn't supposed to be purely comedy, so the role of Balto isn't even that comedic at all. Fortunately, they weren't so cruel as to make it into the kind of comedy Pinky and the Brain was. But as for Jenna, they got Jodie Benson, who played Ariel from the Little Mermaid movies. And yes, this does mean that it's a musical, even though she doesn't sing in the movie. Apparently, the animation studios had a policy that kids' movies had to have a certain number of songs in them. So I guess it didn't help that. But still, it's a bad idea. Though for some reason, they did manage to get Mark Hamill, who you might also know as the actor who played Luke Skywalker, to play the antagonist of this movie. I really have to question if they blew the movie's entire budget on hiring him, but I honestly don't care. I think Mark just wanted a role to maybe dignify himself after seeing the first Star Wars prequel back in 2000. And by the way, it doesn't. Not at all. And then there's the voice of Lacey Chabert, who you might recognize as the voice of Eliza from The Wild Thornberrys, or Meg from season 1 of Family Guy. She doesn't bother me herself, but I'll get into her role a little later on. Second off, there's the music. It's crap compared to the first movie. The singing alone was just something that was totally not needed. I mean, the soundtrack of the first one was pretty good, being composed by James Horner, who did such great soundtracks as the one for An American Tail, Field of Dreams, Glory, Titanic, Aliens, Braveheart, Apollo 13, and most recently, Avatar, most of which were nominated for multiple awards in multiple awards ceremonies. They replaced this guy with Adam Berry, the guy who did that crappy fifth sequel to Beethoven, that movie about the St. Bernard dog who creates a mess. Jeez, people, don't you realize that music sets the mood? Get that through your heads. It's important. And then lastly, there's the obvious style change in the drawings of the characters. It's too drastic. You can tell that the completely different people drew these characters. Plus, they've got Balto's eyes wrong. The whites of his eyes were yellow in the first movie. What happened there? Did he get some sort of doggy eye surgery, bleaching, or some weird experiment that I don't even want to think about? Good Lord. But then again, the whole thing has changed. Changed from actors that actually fit their roles to actors that are singers and a bunch of comedians. They didn't even make this movie that much of a comedy to begin with. Something is seriously wrong with whoever made these decisions. Oh, let's just get started. This will be over faster. So we start off with the dream sequence. A nightmare, as it turns out to be. No doubt a premonition for the rest of this movie. But suddenly Balto is awoken because Boris is worried about how Balto is having bad nightmares recently. He decides to go into town to see Jenna to calm him. And it turns out she had puppies. Aw, puppies, yay. However, strangely enough, they all seem to take after Jenna, even though they're, a quarter wolf, aren't they? Let's see, Balto's half wolf, Jenna's purebred husky. That would make them, if my genetics is correct, that would make them all 1/4 wolf, no matter what they looked like. Wouldn't they show some evidence of being wolf? Oh well, you don't need to study genetics, I guess. Another thing you'll notice really quickly about this movie is the backgrounds. I mean, look at them. The sky is a rotating mishmash of stock photographs of the sky slapped into some animated background. And I'm not just talking about a few of them, but just about every single time you see the sky in this movie, it's a freaking photograph. I mean, I'm not against trying to be realistic, but that doesn't fit. I mean, was it cheaper than drawing a sky? I mean, maybe, but it's still distracting for the rest of the movie. It makes this movie look totally half done. That's just a snippet of my review. I edited it considerably because to make it appropriate for this podcast, I didn't want to do the whole review because I'm trying to make it into a video review because akin to the Nostalgia Critic. So any comments or thoughts about it would be very much appreciated.
Send them to the mailbag.
Yes,
by the way.
Please do.
But great job, Swords. For them. So
yeah, great job, Swords.
Yeah.
Once again, just to point it out, the movie does not make me that angry. It's acting, just so you know, and mostly I'm just looking for stuff that I can make fun of, and I do. So,
Mailbag for the win.